I am so excited to do this webinar with Intuit. We've been using Intuit QuickBooks products for so many years. Even when they were on desktop, we were doing our work with our clients years and years ago. And since we've come into the cloud with Intuit's QuickBooks Online, it's really transformed our business. Not only are we selling virtually and working virtually with clients all over the place, really all over the United States, also, our products, when we use QuickBooks products, they really back up and show the delivery of our services to be pretty strong and amazing. So we're so excited to do this. And we love it that Intuit is a customer-centric company. So if they'll listen to us, they want to hear our feedback. And they're a $140 billion global company. And so they have the resources to build out this product in amazing ways. So really excited to be working with Intuit and partnering on this wonderful webinar. Selling accounting services in virtual environments is something we've been doing for a long time. For 8 years, we've been a virtual company, and we have a team of 13. And my name's Jason Blummer. And so I do a lot of things. I do podcasts. I write a lot of content and courses for accounting firm owners. Even Thrival, one of our companies, has a conference that we lead every year. And of course, I've been leading the firm for 20 years with my partner, and we've been virtual for 8 years. So there's been a lot we've done. We've learned how to sell services in a digital way. That's how we've had to operate, in a digital way. You can build trust, you can build intimacy. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And I want to share a little bit of the agenda with you to help you know what we're going to be talking about today. So first thing we're going to do, if we want to talk about selling, we got to talk about marketing and selling and how those two things are really different things. They're not the same. So once we bring that clarity into your mind and thought about what we're working on, that's what we'll talk through in that section. And then we're going to talk about building intimate digital processes. And we're going to talk about digital and processes and intimate really through the whole thing. What does it mean to be intimate? That's really just to get to know a human, really get to know them well. And you can do that virtually. And it feels like once we move into a virtual environment that you lose all face-to-face, and it is harder. Virtual is more difficult. So what we have to do is be more intentional, more specific about how we do things to bring a lot of clarity. Processes bring that, but you can turn digital processes into more intimate, similar to face-to-face. We've been doing it for a long time. We're going to talk about how to do that. And then just top 3 interactions that really aid and build a client experience that's wonderful. Even though it's digital, I think a lot of these will be obvious to people, but they're real important. And then we'll talk about how we do those things too. One thing we're going to do is talk about how our firm, Blummer CPAs, does our onboarding process. And we're going to discuss what an onboarding process is. Real quick, let me just say, it's the process we walk clients through very slowly and methodically to come to know our firm. And it may take 3 or 4 meetings. I'm going to walk you step by step through it. It may take 3 or 4 meetings to get to know the client, for them to get to know us. And we're really building trust in a very specific and consistent way in this process. And it does work. The end of the process is that clients do typically trust us very much. We have strong relationships with our clients. We ask them to enter into 12-month agreements with us where we'll price our services on the first of each month. We actually draft our prices from their account. Not every country can do that, but that's how we do it in the United States. And they trust us enough to do that. And it's part of this onboarding process that we're going to give you a glimpse into. And then the value conversation. Basically, what a value conversation, you're going to see that in the steps in our onboarding process. And this has a lot of content on that slide. The value conversation has very specific questions that we use to go deep and learn a lot about a client in our first meetings or in our processes. And I'm going to give you questions that help you sell well. They're really great questions, and they're ones we use. A lot of times when we first meet with a client, we don't necessarily talk about accounting or taxes or payroll. A lot of times we're talking about them. What do they want? How do they want to grow? What do they want in a financial partner? These are the kind of things we talk about in the value conversation. And so we're hopefully through this, we're going to give you a little insight into how you can sell well in an accounting firm, and then how you can do it digitally to still build really strong trust. Let's talk about that first point, comparing marketing and selling. There really is a difference between those. So basically what marketing is messaging your market. And so and who is your market? Well, it's typically people you don't know yet, right? It's a group or a market, what we call maybe a vertical niche. A vertical niche is normally an industry you've chosen to work in, like restaurants or manufacturing, or it could be any kind of industry that you decide to work in that market. What you're doing is you're talking to that market. So marketing is consistently talking to that market, and there is consistency in marketing. And as we go through this, you're going to see that it's different than selling. Selling is something completely different, and you need to know the two, because we're going to transition from marketing to selling, and then we're going to really be talking about selling the rest of this webinar. So marketing is where you're consistently putting out content for a market to hear you, and it's got to be the right market. It's got to be the target market. And again, your target market is a vertical industry, potentially, or it could be that you horizontally target. And when you horizontally target, that phrase means you're targeting, or you're trying to serve around some service that you offer. It could be, we want to be experts in accounting and payroll for anybody. Or we want to be a tax firm only. We really want to navigate the complexities of tax for any of our clients. And so what you're trying to do in marketing is narrow the world. So let's say you're an accounting firm and you're virtual. It means you may be able to work all over the country. That's what we do in the United States. And we have to navigate the complexities of the smaller states within the whole federal United States government. But we can work across the whole United States. And it's really important that that whole United States, we narrow it down. And so what our firm has done is we specifically help digital marketing agencies. These are companies that sell branding, websites, marketing services. We specifically help them grow, and we know them really well. So we cater our accounting and our tax and our payroll to that market. So the important thing is now we know who to message, right? We try to become guests on podcasts that are talking to the digital agency market. We try not to be broad because the whole United States is very large. We want to narrow it down. And so marketing is about narrowing the market you serve in, and it's messaging that market very consistently and with very relevant data. So relevant, writing and social posts and things like that. So if we're experts at growing these digital agencies, our narrow target market, we're going to talk about growth. We're going to talk about scaling companies up. We're going to talk about hiring teams. These are the things we're going to do. What we don't do on our blog is talk about really heavy tax ideas, right? Because our blog is for our target market. It's not for other accountants. So we don't write about taxes. Now, we do let people know about tax things that they need to watch out for. But our whole goal is not to talk about taxes. It's to talk about our clients. It's to talk about that consistent, narrow, targeted market. And so we try to give them information that's relevant to them, something they need to know. And a lot of times they don't want to know about tax because they want us to do the tax for them. They want to know how to grow and how to make more money. And those are the relevant things we're talking about. And then actionable. In marketing, anytime you put out any kind of post or any kind of writing, you want to put a button down there or have them be able to act on that information. If they like it, they may want to reach out to you and become a client. And so you want them to hit a button that says act now, or go fill out a form, or here's our email address. You want to give them an ability to respond to you in some way. All right, let's talk about how selling is different. So now what you're doing is you're selling to your leads. So in effect, marketing is talking to the narrow market you want to talk to, And then selling is where a human raises their hand, so to speak, and says, hey, I'm one of the people that you've been marketing to, and I want to come closer to your firm. I want to move closer. And the way they do that is they become a lead, right? And a lot of times they'll fill out a form on your website. That's normally how they do it. They'll either email you or fill out a form on your website. We like to use forms on our website. You'll see in a minute, we want that client filling things out to interact with us, to be responsible, to respond to us. So marketing is not done to a specific individual, but selling is done to a person with a name. So you know their name by the time you're selling to them. And that's when your selling influence, your selling abilities comes out. And so leads are the people who have raised their hand and filled out their form. So what do you do when you sell? You educate. That's really important, and it is your responsibility as an accounting firm to educate your leads, these potential people that want to be clients of yours. The more you educate, the more trust you build with that client, and the more they will work with you virtually. And again, what we're doing is we're just setting up these people to take them through a process so they're going to trust us, and then we can work very closely with them in a virtual place. And we're kind of talking about how to sell to them. And so education is something you should slow down to do. Spend time educating them on why they need some tax credits, or why they need to keep their accounting up to date on a regular basis, or why they need to do their work in a cloud-based tool. That is really important to tell them how you can help them as you educate them in moving to an online tool. So again, this is a qualified lead, and by lead, we mean a human with a name, right? So again, in marketing, you don't know the persons you're talking to. You're just pushing content out to a market that you hope hears you and listens. When you're selling, you're talking to a qualified lead at that point. And by qualified, it means they've assessed whether you're right for them, and they have stepped into a relationship, and they've come closer to you by filling out a form and saying, I'm a lead, start speaking to me as if I could be a client very soon. And that is where you're selling. In selling, you also ask for money. That's a key part of selling. You don't only sell services. You say, here's what we can do, and here's what we need you to pay us. And you typically do this, and this is how we've done it for years. You do it, we've done this for about a decade, where we always price our services up front before we perform any services. That's really important. It's just economically, anytime you walk up to purchase something, you always know the price, and then you make a decision to purchase that thing if you want that product or that service. It's the same for the work we do in our accounting firms. We need to ask for money up front, and we need to do that with a price. It's an important, intimate thing. You need to have conversations with people about money, and you need to practice educating them as to why maybe you cost more, why you're more expensive. It's because you're going through webinars like this, and you care about building processes that care for your leads. It's really important. So you should price your services higher if you're more valuable. And if you're doing the things in this webinar, I think you are more valuable. And as you're selling, you always ask for a price for a valuable service. But the thing is, you have to believe your services are valuable. If you don't believe they're valuable, it's going to be hard to sell to these leads. So you have to change your mindset and recognize that accounting, tax, payroll, consulting about people's businesses, these are very valuable things. These clients are pouring their lives into their businesses, and they need us caring for them and educating them. So we are a very valuable part of any economy. And when we use tools like QuickBooks Online that make us look good, that really allow us to serve our clients well with really strong products, then we're valuable, and we need to price our services in that way. So this is the big point. Selling is more intimate than marketing. And why is it more intimate? Because it's got a human's name attached to it. You know their name. And so you've come to know that person. And now that relationship begins, and you can do the work of virtual selling and still build intimate relationships. So let's talk about some things that help build a digital client processes, right? So processes create consistency. So being consistent is a strong part to building trust. And so building processes are what help you be consistent. And now I want to point out in the title the word onboarding. Onboarding is very important, and that is the process where a person fills out a form on your website and decides to become a lead of yours all the way until you begin to serve them. And that's what we call new client onboarding. And we want that process to take a while. And what we want to do is we want to build processes around it. We want to see our 7 steps. And I'm going to show you our firm's 7 steps in a minute. And we want those steps to be consistent. We want them to be the same over and over. And every time we're building things that are the same, we're becoming a more valuable firm. We do those steps better. We perform them more clearly, and our clients feel a strong sense of trust when we do that. So we build consistent processes to create a wonderful client experience. And the wonderful client experience is the same thing as our brand, right? If you've heard people trust brands, well, you want a name for your firm, you want a logo for your firm, so people can start trusting the brand of your firm. But for accounting firms, we offer services. And so services are branded by an experience. And so I'll say that again. So we don't have a product, a shoe for shoes that are trainers. People can purchase these. We don't have those. And so people can't put trust in the brand of a shoe. What they can do is put trust in the brand of an experience, right? And the experience is all done consistently through a process. That's what creates our brand. So no, every time you're following the step of this digital onboarding process, you are enhancing your brand over and over. And even though you're taking one client through that process at a time, each subsequent client you take through that process, they're going to feel the weight of how good you are at this. And you get better at processes if they're consistent, and it will enhance your brand. The very first interaction is key with that client. Again, when they flip from marketing to selling, that's when it becomes an intimate process. And that's where we want them to fill out a form on our website. You can go to blummercpas.com and you can hit a Get Started button. And that's where we've been marketing, and that's where we want that human to convert into a lead. And when they do that, that first interaction is what they understand us to be as a very strong firm. And then when you have these digital interactions through a form, they lead to human interactions. And that's the key. And you want clients to fill out a form online. And when that's digital, then you have the opportunity to reach out over email and say, let's set up a meeting. And that is why you have to do this digitally first, and you have to have very great digital experiences that are consistently built in a process so that you can finally get to this point and have a human interaction. See? So whereas we all used to work face-to-face, you still get to work face-to-face. You just have to walk them to that process, and it will be over Zoom, and that's not as good as face-to-face in person, but it is what we have now, and it can be done well. Clients also need to be prepared to be priced. So especially in a virtual setting, when you're selling virtually in these virtual environments, clients have to be prepared to receive a price from you. They have to trust who you are, know who you are. So all of this is part of the preparation that these humans need to trust. You can't just, the first time you meet a client online, go, hey, here's our price. We don't do that. We don't talk about prices initially. We always take them through a process, and then at some point we share our services and we share our price. But we wanted to prepare them to trust us enough to hear our price, because our prices are going to be higher than somebody else they've been working with. And that's a key. High prices typically denote high value. And we know that there's psychology to that. So we want our prices to be higher. It's because clients have more to trust. They're like, well, if your price is high, you must be better. And actually they're right, because we do things like care about our team, use great products like QuickBooks Online. And so we are a more valuable firm. So we've got to prepare them to receive that price. And then we use pictures and cameras. That, again, we're trying to get as close to that face-to-face human interaction as we can. And so we want to put pictures on our website. If while you're marketing, people are going to come to your website, you want them to see your picture. You want them to see your name and the title that you have in that company. These are all very intimate parts to your work. You want them to get a sense of who they're working with. And when they see a picture, that may be enough trust just to fill out the form so that you can keep taking them through a process so these digital interactions become these human interactions. And then when you meet with them, we always show our camera. We always show our camera. And we ask the client to show their camera too. Now, most clients, we work virtually, so most clients always show their camera. We never have to ask them to turn their camera on. But if in your country, people are not showing their cameras, we would ask them up front, do you mind having a meeting with us where we all share our camera? It is key for them to trust you so that you can price them appropriately later. So we want to talk about the top 3 interactions that you include in a new client experience. So as you're building your new client experience, make sure you work these in, and we've already alluded to a lot of these. And I'm just going to throw all 3 of them up there and kind of talk through them. You do have a PDF handout that goes into more detail about these, but visual, again, we're trying to get as close to the in-person interaction as we can. So we're all about visual. Visual means, we've already mentioned cameras. We want people to see us, to see our face. That's why I'm teaching this webinar with my camera. And though the screen where you see me is very small, I want you to know I'm a real person and I care about the processes you're going through, and we do this work, so I want you to understand that. So I want you to see me on camera. But what we also do with our clients is we share our screen a lot. And so, whatever product you use to share your screen, whether it be Zoom or whatever, we want to show our screen. We want that client to look at something. And so we want their eyes to interact with us in very specific ways. Tactile, right? So in person, you can shake hands, or you can touch people, or you can hug them. These are tactile things that drive a lot of strength and trust and intimacy. So how can you do that digitally? Well, we want our clients filling out a form. We want them using their fingers to purposely fill out a form to say, I am interested. And even in that form, we want them to respond to some questions and say who they are in that form. And so we don't just put name and email and company. We want that form to be broader and have 4 or 5 questions in it, 3 or 4 things they can do to give us information. When they do that, they're showing trust, even in that form, and we're using that tactile use to really continue to build trust and strength when we meet them finally over Zoom in person. And then we've mentioned processes. Processes are very, very key to doing anything virtually. And why is that? Because they drive consistency. Consistency is what really raises the value of your brand. And that's what you're trying to do, raise the value of your brand. You want people trusting your firm. You want them to know the name of your firm. You want them to know your name, the title that you have in your company, the names of all the team members that work for you. You want your picture on there. And then you can be consistent through your processes and have even digital interactions can lead to intimate things. So processes are something that really drive a lot of the consistency. We've already mentioned that, but in your new client onboarding experience, which is how you're going to prepare your clients to be priced and be sold to in this virtual environment, make sure you work in these 3 key interactions into your onboarding experience. All right, this is where we want to transition into how we get into our onboarding process for our firm. There's our firm's logo. The name of our firm is Blummer, which is my last name. And we had somebody create a logo out of my last name, and you can do that too. Or you can name your firm anything you want to name it. And part of our logo is a bee too. It's got a bee in a circle, and we have stickers that we actually hand out. We have mugs that we've had etched with our logo on it that we give to our clients. And so we care so much about them, we know that they can really find value and trust in our firm now that it has a logo and a name and things like that. Okay, we're going to go into our onboarding process. This will take us a little while because I want to go, this is exactly how we do it in our firm. We have 7 steps. We go at varying speeds. So you may see these steps and go, this will take a long time. Well, it doesn't have to take a long time. We can go through this in about 2 weeks, or for some complicated clients, we'll go through this in about a month or a month and a half. And so it is very slow, but the higher our price is going to be, the longer we need to take a client through a process. And why is that? We need a lot more time to build a lot more trust for them to pay a lot higher price. And so if they're paying a lower price or a price similar to another firm they came from, you can go quicker through these steps. It just depends. All right, let's dive in. And what we're going to do is I'm going to describe the step, and then I'm going to really give a sense of what we're trying to do in the firm, and then what we want the client to do or feel in the step also. And the handout you have has just a little bit more detail. You can read through it too. So first thing we do is have a client fill out a form. I've told you about that. BlummerCPAs.com. Hit the Get Started button and you'll see our form. That's the tactile part of what we want them to do. Then our project management software notifies us that somebody filled out the form, and then we start the next processes 2 and 3, you'll see. Now in this step, what do we want that client to do? Or no, what are we doing as a firm? And what we're trying to do is get the client to agree to move forward. That's an important step. We want them to agree to move forward. So we're basically saying you can't come into the firm unless you do this first step. And we want them to agree to move through that first step. Now, what does the client feel? They feel a barrier, right? So they want somebody to do their accounting, and what we're trying to do is something different. We're trying to build a relationship. We know the relationship is foundational to do the accounting well, because we'll need them to trust us as we do their accounting. So what they feel is this barrier. They feel this wall they have to surmount, and it's counterintuitive. But when a client feels a barrier and then they go over that barrier, that is, if we say you can't be a client unless you fill out a form, and then they fill out that form, they are making a mental commitment to you. And it's really important. Now we've just created that first level of trust. And so a lot of times we'll call these barriers to entry. We'll put up a form and make them fill it out. And that's a barrier to entry. The first few steps are really barriers to entry. And every time they jump that barrier, they trust us more, because they're like, I will go to the trouble to do this because I find you worth it. And that's a commitment to us. And it opens up that ability to trust. And this works. We've been doing this for about a decade. So the next one is we send our first email. And my partner sends this email. So we don't let them have access to me as the CEO just yet. And that's a kind of a barrier. But my partner sends a form that says, here's a document called What We Believe. This has our values in it. And what we're trying to do is get the client to agree with our values. So and our values are easily, something you can agree with. It's not anything difficult, but it is a statement very specifically. We believe in, for example, things like collaboration. We want the client to agree to collaborate with us because we know our success in serving them comes from collaboration. So we want them to agree to our values. So as we send out the email, we say, here's what we believe. Do you believe what we believe? And the client is often impressed and saying, wow, this is amazing. You're trying to build a relationship with me just to talk about the things you believe. And some clients will go away. They may not like that, and that's okay. We want to weed out the wrong client. But some say, I'm impressed. I believe what you believe. I'm excited to move forward with you guys. And so we'll go to step 3, and that's where I'll send the second email with more details. And I'll say, we're excited you came this far. Do you have any questions about the What We Believe document? And then we copy a team member in our firm and say, we want to go ahead and start the process of setting up a meeting. And what we're doing here is we're leading. Our firm is saying we're in control. We're the ones who lead this relationship. And when we lead the relationship, we know it's going to be a good relationship because we're going to care for you. And so the client has to really trust us here and know about this point, right? This could be 3 or 4 days in or a week in. And by this point, they're having to deal with the fact that they want somebody to do their tax return. What we're doing is resetting the relationship, saying, no, we're building a relationship and then we'll do your tax return later. But what we have to agree to is, do you want to stay with us and let us lead you? And so we need that client putting trust in here. Sometimes the client here will also leave because they may not trust us. But some clients that are not in a hurry are like, wow, you guys are very consistent in your process. I can't imagine how well you're going to take care of me if you're so intentional about bringing me in to the firm. It's important. And then we have a step 4 called a value conversation. This is typically our very first face-to-face meeting over Zoom. And this begins the point of our selling. But we don't talk about accounting and taxes in this first meeting. And the next screen, I'm gonna give you our questions we use in our value conversation. Those are really important. And a value conversation is just to have a conversation about what they value. And what we want to do as a firm is we want to put a price on their value. And you can't put a price on a value unless you've slowed down and you've taken some time to figure out what that client values. It's really important. And then we want the client to feel cared for. After that meeting, they're like, thank you so much. We ask them questions. We talk to them. We ask, what are you struggling with? Where are you succeeding? Why do you want to do this now? Who do you want to grow into in 2 years? These questions are really important. The client feels like we're so focused on them because we are, and they feel that great sense of care. And then in step 5 is the third meeting. Well, not the third meeting, but it's really the third time we've kind of been in touch with them in our digital interactions. And this is where we present prices. And we always do a high, middle, low, right? And so, again, we haven't even started service with them. This might be 2 to 3 weeks in to the first time they've filled out the form online. And we've had so many interactions between the value conversation and the prices. It might have been a long time between that, like a week or week and a half. We email them normally and we say, we're so excited to let you know we've been thinking about you and we've been building prices. We're reviewing those now. We're excited to share those with you. And then a lot of times we'll ask to set up another meeting where we want to lead them. And then we're going to use selling techniques in when we present this price. And we're going to try to convince them of the thing that we know is right for them. But we always do a high price, a middle price, and a low price because we want to give that client a sense of control where they're not just going to take whatever price we give them. We're going to make an attempt to give them 3 opportunities to work with us and let them pick which one may be best for them. And so they get to choose, right? And so it shows them, hey, we're leading the relationship, but we do care about you and we want you to have some feedback into how we care. And so we do that for them. And then we always put an expiration date on our options. And that's a lot of times 7 to 10 days out. We don't think we should go longer than that. We want them to be bound to make a decision. The longer they go to make a decision, the more overwhelmed they get or they get distracted and start working on other things in their life. We say, you need to stay in the relationship with us. We've built a relationship with you. You're in it with us now. You need to commit or not. And an expiration date just puts an end on our value. It says our value is not open forever, right? And that's an important recognition of our own value. It is extremely valuable. And you can't have it anytime you want. You have it up until the date we say our proposal expires. It's very important. And then we price another option at this point or prepare a contract. So at this time, they could go, we choose option 2. Or they may say, I see the 3 options you've presented. And can you actually take some of this one and give me some of this one and then compile all those into a 4th option? And we do that a lot. So we'll prepare and price a 4th option too, letting them make that choice Or they'll just choose an option and we'll prepare a contract at that time. And so what we're doing is we're now scoping the contract. So scoping is really important. That price represents services. And so we have to write those services down in a contract that they must sign. And so we never do any work or make any money without a written document between us and our client. That is really important to our relationship. It continues to enhance our trust later, because if you just verbally agree to things, everybody's going to remember different things. And so we put the price they agreed to and we write down so they can read it all the things that that price means. And again, tactile, we want them to have that PDF, to open that contract PDF, to sign it with their mouse online. These are all things that represent a real relationship. And then we want the client at this point to feel, now, we've done a lot of work consistently in this digital process to make you feel cared for, but client, you have a responsibility too. We cannot be successful without the client collaborating with us. And then once we agree, we have a kickoff meeting. And this is really a celebration where we say, you made it through our onboarding process. Thank you for trusting us. We do thank them and we celebrate. This kickoff meeting usually has their team as well as our team in that meeting. So whereas me and my partner, Julie, we may be doing the work pricing with one client, three or four people. These kickoff meetings could have 6 or 7 people. And we go around the virtual room and we introduce people. And it's basically saying, hey, we're real. We're a real firm. And you're a real company. And we're not just digital. We actually are located somewhere in the world, physically interacting with people and doing important work. And though our work with the client is digital, it's important that they understand we celebrate them and we thank them. And then the client is ready to go into a relationship to be led. We're off and running and we've done so much work. This is how you sell virtually in a virtual environment. It is methodical and intentional, and it does work. We've been doing it for so long. All right, this is our last slide. So the value conversation questions. And again, this slide has a lot of text on it. So because I wanted to give you the full question that you could ask. We ask these questions in our value conversation. And you remember, well, let me just back up. I want to see the value conversation was step 4, right? And so step 5 and 6, that really, step 5 is where we start the selling process. Step 4 is still the preparation phase. And so the preparation phase is really where you dive deep into who this client is. So here's some questions we ask. What has happened that's caused you to think you need to seek a new financial partner? Why now? And so this gives us a sense of what something has happened in their life for them to go to the trouble of trying to find a new accounting firm. And or maybe something didn't happen that's significant in their life, but we want to know what has led them to the decision, because the thing behind that decision is really important. There's some kind of important thing in their life or in their financial statements, and they may say, we've just found fraud. Somebody has just stolen from us. Well, you're going to have to price your services to review that fraud and make sure they collect all of their money back. And so you need to uncover why they're switching. And if they had an accountant they saw face to face, why are they moving to a digital accountant? What's the process? How much do they trust that process? So it's really important to understand this. This next one is, what do you hope your business becomes over the next 2 years? So here's a trick we know about, this is aiding us in selling. Here's a trick we know about clients. Anytime you ask about the future, that's kind of a strategic question. And they start to tell you about all the things they want. Now, if you ask about the present, like how many transactions do you run through your bank every month? That's a present question. That's not a very good question. You don't need that question. If you want to price according to their value, you want to ask about who they want to become. And they'll say, oh, I want to add 10 more people and I want to double my revenue. And you get to price that service. You get to say, you know what you need them? You need cash flow help. You need quarterly financial reports pulled up in QuickBooks Online. You need us meeting with you monthly to pull that off. Now that we know what you're trying to do, we're going to come closer to you with our services. And that's important to ask about the future. What 2 or 3 problems are you facing in your business right now you can't seem to solve? When they answer that question, it just gives you the list of things you can solve. If they go, I don't know my cash. I don't know if I can hire people. I don't know why I don't have money in the bank, but I'm showing a profit. You can sell things to help them understand that. So that's really important. What keeps you up at night and what gets you up in the morning? These are just feelings. We want to hear their feelings and their thoughts. It helps us price them. So what keeps you up at night is that, significant worry in their life. And then what gets you up in the morning is that, that identified opportunity, right? What do they feel is an opportunity in their life? How can we come along and partner with them and help them achieve some of these things they want to achieve in 2 years? And then what are the things you think we should be doing for you if we were to work together? This is where we like to ask them, list the things you think we should do, right? If instead of us telling them what we do, they can read that on our website. We want to hear from them. Here's what they think we can do for them. They may list things we didn't list on our website that we don't know they want. But whatever they say, if we can do it, then we can price that service. It's really important. And then we love this question, what did I not ask that you wish I would have asked? So we try our best in a value conversation to ask great questions, but we're never going to get them all. They come sometimes with a sense of fear, wondering, can I move into a digital accounting firm? All these things are real important. So we say, tell us anything you wanted to say that we didn't know to ask about. And they feel cared for. They feel like that's a question that opens them up to think about anything. And a lot of people will always share something with us. And then we say, do you think we would be a good firm for you? Should I move forward to create a price for you to consider? This is really important. And what we're doing here is we're making them commit to us. So we've gone through all of this work, right? We're up to step number 4 in the value conversation, and we're making them say whether they want us to move forward. Now, what we could do is we could assume they want us to keep going, but in virtual situations, you never assume. Assuming, actually in person, you don't assume either. Assuming can lead to very dangerous parts of a relationship. It can lead to broken expectations, hurt feelings, distrust that erodes over time. So you don't want assumptions in any kind of relationship with other humans. And as a firm, you're serving humans that are running a business. And so you don't want assumptions in that. And so you want to say, tell us, are we good for you? Should we move forward? And when you do that, they really make a commitment, and they hear it verbally out of their own mouth. And when they're verbally speaking out of their own mouth, they're believing the things they say. And you need to hear them too. You need to hear them. Typically, they won't just say, yes, let's move forward. They'll go, we have felt so much care from you. We really do trust you. We know that you have put a lot into this process. By this point, they're really starting to trust you in a lot of the things you do. Now, up to this point, they could say, you know, I don't think so. And a lot of times in the value conversation, that is where we move away from a relationship where we know we're not right for them. So the value conversation is not only to move them to the pricing stage, it's also to move a client out of the process if we know they're no longer good for us. So sometimes we'll go, hey, I think maybe you need to come back when you're a larger company because we can only serve clients at this price level. We have a minimum number we use to bring in the right client. We want to figure that out in the value conversation. That's really important. So getting them to say this is what really allows you to do your best work. So thank you so much for coming to this webinar. This has been a lot of fun just to share with you the things we've done for a decade. We've been putting this onboarding process together for a decade, and all the things I've shared with you are things we've learned and added to. But whatever's right for you, take some of those steps away, add more things that matter for you. Don't just follow our onboarding process specifically. Ours was just an example. What we're trying to convince you of is if you're selling great services using great products like QuickBooks Online, you can build trusted relationships with clients, and you should. and you can be paid the same. You can be paid more money. You can build trust. Clients can trust you virtually, and you can sell really well when you've prepared that client. So thank you, Intuit, for letting us share this exciting, great information, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. I hope that was helpful. Take care. We'll see you.